Revealed. The incredible moment a millionaire single dad took home an unexpected guest, heartwarming or insane. Mark Lawson, a 42-year-old tech entrepreneur, stood at the bustling intersection of life and grief. A millionaire by most measures, he felt like a poverty-stricken soul carved away from warmth when his wife passed. He poured everything he had into raising Emily, his socially awkward, bright-eyed 15-year-old daughter, but the walls of his grand suburban home felt emptier with each passing second. Every tick of the clock echoed his loneliness, amplifying the weight of his loss. One evening, Mark found himself at the local community center, delivering supplies, a small gesture he hoped would engage Emily and teach her compassion. As he unloaded boxes of cereal and canned goods, his heart shifted when he spotted Jake. A homeless veteran, his weathered face told stories of perseverance. Mark felt an unexplainable pull towards him, a hidden strength buried beneath the accolades of a life experienced rather than lived. It ignited a spark in Mark, prompting him to take a step that would change everything. The choice seemed radical, maybe even reckless. Invite Jake to stay with them. But as the words slipped out, he felt a rush of hope ripple through his chest. Emily's face echoed his internal conflicts: shock, anger, confusion. "Dad, you can't just bring a stranger home. He is homeless." The tremor in her voice said it all, slicing through Mark's resolution like a jagged knife. The words, once spoken, hung heavy between them, chilling the air. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into mounting tension, Emily protesting each new day Jake spent under their roof. Her discomfort simmered, fueled by fears that clawed at her inside: safety, identity, what she believed was normal. Whispers slithered through the neighborhood like shadows, less about compassion and more about prejudice. A millionaire housing a homeless man? The neighbors murmured, judging Mark's character rather than understanding his intentions. One night, amidst the chaos, a misunderstanding ignited an explosion of emotions. "He is not one of us, Dad," Emily shouted, tears brimming in her eyes. It was more than a clash of beliefs. It struck at the heart of their shifting family dynamic. Mark knew it was essential to embody the values he had tried to teach Emily: hard work, kindness, an understanding of dignity that transcends wealth. But as he confronted the whirlwind of pain and confusion surrounding them, he felt his footing slip. But when a storm swept through their community, ravaging homes and drowning streets, everything shifted. Mark, Emily, and Jake found themselves thrust together, heartbeats matching in rhythm as they sprung into action. It became clear they had to respond, to rise above their differences. Yet, as they all gathered their strength, old wounds from across the spectrum surfaced. A shocking revelation from Jake sent a jolt through their fragile alliance, shaking trust to its core. Mark looked at Emily, both wrestling with identities shaped by fear and courage, hands trembling. Everything they attempted to rebuild teetered on the brink, and around the corner was a visitor that would either heal their deepest divides or tear them apart forever. Mark knew the storm was more than just a physical assault on their neighborhood. It had become a metaphor for their fragmented lives. Rain pounded on the roof, echoing the chaos in Emily's heart. The trembling urgency in her voice mixed with the howling wind seemed to claw at the walls of their home. Together, they had scrambled to help, moving branches, clearing debris, doing what they could. But the moment the sky cleared and the dreary aftermath unfurled before them, a world gone wrong, they faced each other like strangers. Emily stood with her arms crossed, staring at Jake as if he were a ghost from a past she never wanted. Mark sank into the weight of a decision that haunted his every thought. The fragile alliance they were forging now felt like balancing on the thinnest strand of a spider's web. Jake stepped forward, dripping wet and weary yet ignited with a fierce resolve. "I know this isn't easy for you, Emily. It's not easy for me either." His voice, rough but sincere, pierced through the air filled with unspoken fears. "But sometimes, it takes a storm to see what really matters." Like you? Emily shot back, a mix of anger and fear swirling in her wide eyes. You think you can just be here and everything will suddenly be okay? You're a reminder of everything we lost. Pain flashed across Mark's face. Emily, he began, but Jake raised a hand, cutting him off. It's okay, Jake said, humility weaving through his words. I wouldn't expect you to understand. He stepped closer to Emily, as if searching for a bridge between them. All I know is that I've faced storms literal and figurative. I've lost people too. I've failed, but I've fought to rise from it. Your dad is showing me that kind of compassion I'm not used to, and it's hard. Emily blinked, momentarily caught off guard, her defenses wavering. There was depth in Jake's eyes, a kindness wrapped in hardship. For a second, Mark saw the barriers she had erected around her heart break ever so slightly. She stumbled, her voice thick with emotion. It doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel right. We're supposed to be okay, you know? Mark stepped in, the fracture in his heart aching for his daughter. You're right. I don't expect this to be easy. But look at what happened during the storm. Look at what we did together. The good that came from it. He gestured at the small stacks of supplies they had gathered. People from their community working side by side despite differences. Jake nodded, hoping to bolster Emily's thoughts. We can build a sense of belonging. And yes, some mistakes will happen. But would you have us turn away from each other when the world is this chaotic? Emily looked between her father and Jake, battling the tempest of doubt flowing through her veins. Mark stepped closer, his heart pounding. We have to try him, not just for us, but for others who are suffering. You showed compassion before. Let us not stop now. A heavy silence hung, punctuated only by dripping water and distant sirens. The world outside was chaotic, but in that moment, something shifted internally. They were just a small family, grappling with their own storms while moving forward. A sudden knock at the door sent a ripple of tension through them, causing all hearts to race. Mark exchanged a glance with Emily and Jake. They felt the weight of impending change hanging in the air. Who could that be? Mark wondered aloud, apprehension thrumming in his chest. With reluctant steps and fluttering hearts, they moved toward the door, each carrying their own hopes and fears about what lay beyond. But nothing could prepare them for the face that awaited them on the other side. Would this new arrival change everything, or would it pull them even further apart? Mark opened the door, the echo of the knock still ringing in their ears. The sight that met him was a woman on the porch, drenched from head to toe, her hair plastered to her forehead. She looked like a casualty of the storm, her complexion pale and her eyes wide with desperation. Please, she gasped, I need help. Emily instinctively stepped back, her pulse quickening as dread washed over her. Who was this? Why did she look so fragile, as if she could shatter at any moment? But Mark didn't hesitate. He felt a pull, a sense of urgency mirrored in the woman's pleading gaze, and he stepped aside, beckoning her in. Come in, he urged, glancing back at Jake and Emily, whose expressions veered toward confusion and concern. As the woman crossed the threshold, warmth enveloped her for the first time that day. She drew in a deep breath, sniffing the air filled with remnants of stew simmering on the stove, and something uniquely reassuring about the homey messiness of their living room. Thank you, she whispered, shivering. Her voice cracked, emotions flooding her. Here, sit down and get warm, Mark offered, guiding her to a chair by the window. She sank into it, wrapping her arms around herself, her eyes scanning the familiar surroundings as if searching for something she couldn't quite articulate. Emily stood frozen for a moment, her instincts pushing her to retreat, to shield herself from whatever upheaval this stranger might bring. Jake, however, felt a flicker of compassion ignite in him. What happened? He asked gently, kneeling in front of her in a gesture that felt oddly protective. The woman hesitated, weighing her words like stones. I was just trying to get to my sister's place when the storm hit. My car is stuck on the road, and I didn't know what else to do. I saw your lights. Tears began to well in her eyes, shimmering like the raindrops that still clung to the window. I didn't want to be alone out there. Mark felt a knot in his stomach tightening. It wasn't just fear for their safety. It was the reminder of their own vulnerability. As huddled as they had been during the storm, an uneasy thought crept in. How could they open their home to another person when they were still figuring things out themselves? Emily's defenses crumbled, at least a little. She took a step forward, curiosity battling caution. "What is your name?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt inside. "Sarah." The woman's gaze finally met Emily's, unleashing something in both of them, a connection sparked by desperation and shared humanity. The silence thickened again as Mark turned to Jake, gauging his reaction. Jake nodded subtly, channels of understanding flowing between them. It struck Mark how precarious their own emotions were, standing at the edge of tendrils reaching outward toward a stranger, while grappling with their own storms. "So, Sarah," Mark began, finding a bit of backbone. "We can help you. But you have to know, it's a bit chaotic around here." "I've dealt with chaos before," she replied, a small smile breaking through her tears. "Guess it's just life, huh?" With that, Emily stepped closer to the table where a pack of cards lay scattered from earlier attempts to get back to normalcy. "What do you say we play a game while we wait for the weather to clear up?" The invitation surprised everyone. Mark watched as the weight of the moment shifted, already sensing the warm connections starting to weave into the fragile fabric of their family, and this newcomer's laughter and hesitant smiles began to break through the storminess in their hearts. A distant crash echoed outside, like thunder rumbling in the distance. But they were here now, finding solace in togetherness. Yet, the question loomed. Would this unexpected guest be the bomb they needed, or the catalyst for more storms on the horizon? Jake dropped the cards, scattering them like autumn leaves across the table. A loud crash outside rattled the windows, pulling everyone's attention back to the storm that still raged. Lightning flickered, illuminating Sarah's face just as she stiffened, her eyes widening with fear. "Is that thunder?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind howling outside. "Yeah," Mark replied softly, stepping closer to her. "But you're safe here. We'll get through this together." His heart raced, not from fear, but from a desperate need to reassure her. Emily took a deep breath, her resolve solidifying. "You know, games always help distract from the noise outside," she said, a warm smile trying to chase away the shadows lurking in Sarah's eyes. Mark admired how easily his wife shifted moods, weaving an atmosphere of comfort with just her words. Cautiously, Sarah smiled back, the tension in her shoulders loosening slightly. "I haven't played a game in a long time," she confessed. "Not since before." "Before?" Jake asked, curiosity piqued. "Before everything changed," Sarah replied, her gaze faltering. For a second, the mask of vulnerability slipped, revealing something much deeper, a pain they could all sense but not yet understand. Determined not to let the moment sink into darkness, Emily reshuffled the cards and dealt a hand. "How about a friendly round of Go Fish?" she suggested, her tone light. Mark watched as the game gradually pulled them out of the heavy atmosphere. Laughter began to fill the room, a much-needed escape. Sarah's voice rose as she revealed a pair of cards, the urgency of her earlier emotions momentarily fading. Yet, beneath the laughter, Mark felt a tension pulsing in the air that he couldn't shake. A piece of his mind kept returning to the storm outside, both literal and metaphorical. They were welcoming Sarah into their home during a tempest, but they all carried their own burdens, hidden under layers of laughter and cards. "Look at you all," Sarah said, laughter spilling from her like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Such pros at this game." Jake grinned as he snatched a card from the deck. "Can you believe we're playing Go Fish? All we need now is a glass of lemonade and a picnic. Or maybe something stronger," Mark joked back. But he could see the shadows of weariness creeping back into Sarah's eyes, and his heart ached for her again. Suddenly, the lights flickered, dimming for a moment before regaining their brightness, which sent a shudder through Sarah. "Is that normal?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Just the storm," Mark said, trying to sound confident. "It's been rough outside, but we're safe." "Safe," Sarah echoed softly, the weight of that word hanging in the air. Emily caught Mark's gaze, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They wanted to protect this woman, but she was a puzzle they had yet to solve. The game drew them together, yet subtle tension lingered, as unpredictable as the storm outside. As they continued playing, they couldn't ignore the unsettling feeling that shattered undercurrent was yet to surface. A sudden loud crack resounded outside, echoing against the walls, freezing everyone in place. Mark shot a look toward the window, the storm darkening as if amplifying their worries. "What was that?" Sarah asked, her eyes darting to the door. I don't know. Mark attempted to sound calm, but doubt crept in. As the wind howled louder, gently twisting at the edges of their sanctuary, fear curled back into the corners of Emily's heart. Maybe we should check, she said hesitantly. Mark took a deep breath, summoning the courage that had been growing in him during this unexpected night. Let us stick together, he said, looking back to Sarah, who seemed utterly fragile in this storm of elements and emotions. As they all rose from the table, the warmth of the shared moments faded, leaving behind an unsettling chill. What exactly waited for them outside? Sarah's eyes glimmered with uncertainty, and Mark felt the air thickening with a tension that couldn't be ignored. Would facing the storm outside lead them to answers they needed, or something much darker? Mark took the first step toward the door, his heart drumming against his ribs as he pushed aside the nagging fear curling in his gut. The others followed closely, forming a protective circle around Sarah, whose presence felt both fragile and strong, like glass that might shatter but also hold together under the right care. As Mark reached for the doorknob, the wind howled a warning. He paused, glancing back at Emily, who wore an expression of both concern and resolve. We'll be quick, he assured her, catching the worried flicker in her eyes. Wait, Sarah said, her voice quivering. What if it's dangerous out there? It's just a storm, Sarah, Jake interjected, trying to sound confident despite the fear mirrored in his own face. We can't just stay locked in here. We'll look out for each other. Mark finally turned the knob, pulling the door open against the relentless force of the wind. Rain cascaded in, drenching the threshold and their shoes. The world outside was a blur of dark grays and swirling clouds, each lightning flash unveiling a chaotic dance of nature's fury. Stay close, Mark shouted over the storm, stepping into the chaos. With one hand on the door frame, he peered into the night, scanning for whatever had caused the earlier sound. Just as he stepped further out, a shrill cry echoed through the chaos. Did you hear that? Sarah gasped, clutching Emily's arm, her nails digging in slightly. Jake squinted against the torrential rain. It was over there. He pointed toward a cluster of trees bordering the property, their branches twisting violently in the wind. Without thinking, Mark took off in that direction. He didn't want to show fear, especially not to Sarah, who was clinging tightly to Emily, seeking solace. The three of them, Mark, Emily, and Jake, forded the wet ground, the mud slipping beneath their feet. They arrived at the edge of the thickest trees, grounding themselves in a patch of grass that resisted the wild winds. Come on, stay together, Mark urged. The three of them huddled close, trying to hear beyond the roar of the storm. Suddenly, another sound broke through, a low, desperate mewling. It pierced the winds, instantly igniting compassion within them. Mark turned to the side, searching frantically. There, Emily shouted, pointing toward a fallen tree. Nestled in the exposed roots was a small, trembling figure. It was too dark to see well, but Mark could make out a tiny ball of fur, the unmistakable shape of a kitten. A kitten? Jake exclaimed, eyes wide with surprise. It's all alone out here. Mark's heart pulled at the sight. We have to help it. He yelled over the continuing storm, his protective instincts roaring to life. Do you think it's okay? Emily asked, her voice laced with concern, the worry for the kitten reflecting the care she held for Sarah. We won't know unless we try, Mark said firmly, working through the disbelief. Together, they rushed forward, fighting against the rain. Mark scooped up the frightened creature, feeling its small body tremble against his palm. It's so cold, Sarah whispered, stepping closer, her eyes shimmering with empathy. What do we do? Mark turned, holding the squirming ball of warmth in his hands. We bring it back inside, keep it warm. It needs us just like you do. At her mention, Mark glanced back at Sarah, who seemed to lighten at his words, her expression softening as she aligned herself with the tiny creature in his grasp. They hurried back to the door, laughter trickling quietly through the tension as Sarah joined in his enthusiasm. It chose you, didn't it? She joked, a genuine smile breaking through the weight of fear. But once inside, as they closed the door against the tempest, Mark felt a shift in the energy of the room. He placed the kitten down on the table, and now the dilemma was greater than before. Mark, what if it gets hurt again? Emily voiced not just concern for the kitten, but for Sarah as well. Sarah's gaze dropped to the fragile creature, and Mark felt the weight of unspoken fears. Would saving this little life somehow lead to salvation for them all? Or reveal what lurked deeper within his unexpected guest? Maybe it's not just about the storm outside, he murmured softly, glancing at Emily as he realized the real storm awaited. Or the storms inside, Sarah added quietly, almost to herself. The room felt charged, tension crackling like static in the air. What would this moment truly mean for them? Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of their unraveling. Mark placed the kitten gently on the table, its tiny body quivering in the warmth of the room. The world outside raged on, but inside, the air felt thick with uncertainty. He glanced over at Sarah, whose soft gaze focused on the creature. Something about the moment stirred within him, a longing for connection that seemed mirrored in her eyes. "Let us dry it off," Emily suggested, her voice cutting through the tension. She moved towards the linen closet, a place they hadn't thought to explore until now. The sound of towels rustling broke the stillness, and Mark's heart eased a little. They were taking action, grounding themselves in the chaotic whirlwind of their thoughts. "Here," Emily said, handing Mark a soft towel. He wrapped it around the shivering kitten, feeling warmth seep into his hands. It was amazing how such a small creature could command so much attention. As he held the kitten close, he could feel it start to relax, nuzzling into the fabric. "Maybe we could name it," Jake chimed in, trying to lighten the atmosphere. "How about Stormy?" "Stormy might be too common," Sarah said, her brow furrowed in thought. "What about Nimbus?" "Like the clouds." Mark laughed lightly, the sound a welcome intrusion amidst the silence that had threatened to swallow them whole. "Nimbus the kitten. I like it." He looked at Sarah and saw a shy smile creeping onto her face, a tiny light flickering against the shadow of fear. They gathered around the table, all focused on the newfound addition to their small group. Mark was surprised how easily the tension began to shift, in part thanks to Nimbus and the warmth of their shared concern. But then, as laughter faded, the reality of their situation crept back. Mark felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The storm outside may have been a distraction, but it felt like a metaphor for the turmoil they were trying to navigate. "Can we really take care of this cat?" Jake's tone had changed, suddenly serious. "I mean, what if it turns out to be a lot more work than we bargained for?" "Just like," Emily interrupted, her voice steady and sure. "We got this. We just need to focus. The same way we need to focus on supporting each other." She gave Mark a meaningful glance, and for a moment, he felt a connection that was both refreshing and overwhelming. Sarah tilted her head, a contemplative look washing over her features. "Do you think maybe saving this kitten could lead to us figuring things out?" Mark's heart ached with the weight of possibility. What did it mean to take responsibility, not just for a lost kitten, but for each other? Could they really be each other's saviors, in their own way? "In a way, it might," Mark offered softly, taking a deep breath. "But we have to be honest with each other. The storms inside us are just as fierce as the one out there." An uneasy silence settled over them. The room felt so much smaller, like a cocoon made from their fears and hopes. Each person working through their vulnerabilities, balancing the fragility of the kitten with the fragility of their hearts. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder startled them all, shaking the house. Nimbus yowled, scrambling beneath Mark's arm, and prompting a nervous chuckle from Jake. "Looks like our little friend is still scared," he said, trying to lighten the mood once more. Mark smiled faintly, but realized that fear was not just coming from the storm. It left him wondering what darkness might lurk in their own lives, waiting to break free. What inner storms would be stirred as they faced their demons together? As they began to settle Nimbus down, a single thought pressed heavily on Mark's mind. If they could face this small creature's vulnerability, could they take the next steps to confront their own? Would they stand together against the storms to come? Or would they find themselves shattered by the truths they were yet to uncover? Outside, the storm raged wildly. Inside, the tension all but crackled like the lightning overhead. And as they huddled together, the first of many revelations loomed near, waiting to break through the surface. Mark laid Nimbus gently on the table again, feeling the dampness of the towel still lingering on the kitten's fur. The kitten was calming, blinking in a drowsy manner, and for a moment, it was easy to forget the storm outside. But the thunder rumbled louder, reminding him of the weight of the atmosphere they were all steeped in. "Okay, let us try to lighten things up," Jake said, his voice more upbeat. Nimbus needs a little playtime, don't you think? He reached into his backpack and fished out a small toy. It was a scrunched-up piece of paper, but it looked colorful enough in the dim light of the room. Look, Nimbus. A gift just for you. He teased as he tossed it towards the kitten. Nimbus perked up, eyes brightening as it pounced on the paper, batting it with tiny paws. Laughter bubbled up among them again. This time a little louder, a little more genuine, almost like a small rebellion against the chaos beyond the walls. Sarah's laughter rang out alongside Jake's, a sound that made Mark's heart flutter. There was a lightness in her expression now, a small relief. He glanced at Emily. She was smiling too, and he realized they were all craving these moments, however fleeting. Maybe Nimbus is the emotional support we all need, Emily said, her smile warm. If this little guy can handle a storm, maybe we can too, right? In that moment, as they watched Nimbus chase after the paper, the weight of their individual thoughts seemed to lighten. But Mark could still sense the tension just beneath the surface. They were still standing on shaky ground, and the words unsaid lingered like storm clouds, heavy and foreboding. But before he could voice his apprehensions, a sudden crash echoed outside. Something heavy hit the ground, causing them all to jump, the laughter evaporating instantly. The atmosphere shifted sharply, and the kitten bolted back into Mark's embrace, its fur bristling with fear. Okay, let us not freak out, Jake said, his voice cracking a bit. It's just the storm. We're safe in here. Yeah, we're safe, Emily echoed, her eyes darting toward the window. But Mark noticed the way her hands fidgeted, the uncertainty creeping back into her expression. About that, I think we need to confront what is actually going on with us, don't you think? Mark's voice cut through their unease like lightning. There was a thread of determination as he turned to them all. Nimbus isn't the only one who needs saving. The room stilled, breaths held. He could feel the raw waves of uncertainty washing over them once more. I mean, we've all been through so much, and I think it's time we opened up a little. Emily seemed to hold on to her breath. You're right. We can't keep pretending we're okay. Sarah nodded, eyes glistening. What if we try talking about what's really bothering us? The kitten is just the beginning, isn't it? Mark shivered as a gust of wind howled outside, rattling the windows. This storm doesn't just exist outside, he murmured, a sense of surreal clarity surfacing in his mind. Just then, Nimbus mewed softly, nuzzling against Mark's neck, and somehow, it grounded him. If we can gather the courage to do this for Nimbus, maybe we can be brave for ourselves. Together, he could feel the collective breath release from their frames, an unsteady exhale of relief. Each of them still held their fears, but maybe the act of voicing those fears could transform their burdens, just as Nimbus had transformed the room from a space of despair to one of hope. As he searched their faces, something new sparked in Mark's chest, a flicker of hope, a possibility that they might actually emerge stronger. Would they muster the courage to unveil their storms and stand united as friends? And as the next rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, it brought with it a question that resonated. In the battle between chaos and resolution, which side would they choose to fight for? The tension hung in the air like the heavy storm clouds outside. Mark could see the flicker of uncertainty dance in the eyes of his friends. Nimbus nestled closer against his neck, and he took a deep breath, ready to break through the barrier they all seemed to be holding up around their hearts. All right, who wants to go first? He asked, his voice steadying as he tried to encourage them. Silence swallowed the room. Emily glanced at Sarah, and Mark noticed how tightly the two of them were holding on to each other like lifelines. Jake shifted his weight from one foot to another, his hand rubbing the back of his neck, as if he could somehow rub away the anxious tension. I'll go. Sarah finally broke the silence, her voice brave yet fragile. I haven't really talked about what happened with my mom. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and Mark's heart ached seeing her struggle. She has been sick for a while, and I thought I was ready for it. But when I got the call, it felt different. It felt like I was losing everything. Mark felt a twinge as he processed her words. It wasn't just a simple sickness. It was loss looming like the storm outside. It reminded him that storms came in many forms. Sarah, I'm so sorry, Emily said softly. She took Sarah's hand, their fingers intertwining for comfort. You don't have to carry that alone. A few tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks, but they weren't just of sadness. There was something liberating about sharing her burden. I felt so lost since then, like I'm just floating. Every time I think I can find solid ground, it slips away. I get that, Jake interjected, his own vulnerability spilled into the room. I've been feeling similarly. With work and everything else, it's like I'm running just to stay in place. Sometimes I wonder if I'm cut out for what I'm doing. His voice wavered, revealing a deeper struggle. I keep waiting for a big break, but all I get are more responsibilities and less time to breathe. Mark could feel the shift in the room. The storm of their emotions was finally rising, thickening the air as they put into words the fears that haunted them. I felt it too, Emily added, her voice now stronger, empowered by Sarah S. and Jake S. voices. After my breakup, I thought I'd be okay, but it feels heavier over time. It's like I'm stuck in this loop of seeing everyone else happy while I'm drowning in my own thoughts. As the words hung in the air, Mark felt the warmth. They were connecting, breaking down walls that had kept them isolated in their struggles. "You're all incredibly brave," he said, pride swelling in his chest. "And I think what we really need right now is to know we're not alone." Nimbus mewed softly, as if sensing the shift. Mark picked the kitten up, holding it to face all his friends. "Just like Nimbus here, we can find strength in each other. It's okay to not be okay. Together, we can weather the storm." Something shifted in the room. The storm outside still raged, but within them was a newfound solidarity. They were opening up, baring their souls, and it felt cathartic. Then a loud clap of thunder interrupted their moment, rattling the windows once again. The room trembled, and for a fleeting second, dread filled the air. "Maybe it's time to confront our fears head-on," Mark offered, glancing towards the window. "To really face what's holding us back?" "Together," Sarah echoed, glancing at each of them, feeling the collective support rising. Just then, the lights flickered, sending the room into a brief darkness before the backup system kicked in. A reminder that storms could bring both fear and a sense of hope, a chance for renewal. A sudden thought struck Mark. What if we take turns sharing something we wish we could change about our situation, and a small step we can take to change it? As the storm raged outside, the four of them sat together, hearts racing yet somehow lighter, ready to shed more than just their words. Marks of hope flashed like lightning, and with each shared fear, they were sculpting a path forward. But beneath that hope was a question: how deep did their struggles run? Would they find the courage needed to emerge from this storm as renewed individuals? Or had they only scratched the surface of what truly needed to be unpacked? Mark could feel the tension throbbing still, a promise of more to uncover, the real storms waiting just beneath the surface. The room felt charged with expectation, the air thickening as they each took a moment to digest what Sarah had shared. Mark shifted in his seat, glancing at each of his friends. It was a huge step, opening up like that, but he sensed deeper struggles lurking beneath their bravado. "Okay, I'll go next," Jake said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. He took a deep breath, and Mark could see the gears turning in his mind. "I wish I could change how lost I feel about my career. I've been with the company for years, but every day seems like just another grind." As Jake spoke, his eyes flickered with something more profound. "Sometimes, I dream of just walking away, but I worry what that would mean for my parents. They've worked so hard, you know? I don't want to let them down." Mark could see the weight of Jake's words settle in the room. Emily cast a comforting smile toward him, but Mark could sense Jake feared failing more than simply struggling. "What is one step you think you could take?" Mark asked gently. He could feel the tension still coiling tightly in the atmosphere. He was hoping to find a thread that would lead them deeper into the heart of their struggles. Jake clenched his fists for a moment, then spoke again. "Maybe I could start taking my side projects more seriously. I mean, I've been working on that app idea. I just need to give myself a deadline." The room burst with murmurs of encouragement. Mark felt a flicker of warmth inside him. They were working it out. Emily shifted on the floor, her curly hair framing her face beautifully. "I want to go," she said, her voice full of determination. "I wish I could change the way I view my past relationship. I keep replaying it, like a broken record. I thought I'd be over it by now, but every time I think I'm moving forward, it pulls me back." She paused, glancing around the group. "What I think I need is to set limits. I keep letting my ex invade my thoughts and my space." "That's brave," Mark said, feeling pride swell once again. "Setting boundaries is a perfect first step." Emily nodded, and wiped an errant tear from her cheek. It's just hard, you know? I guess it takes time to unshackle ourselves from expectations, both others and our own. The thunder rolled again, a distant reminder of the storm outside. Mark felt his heart race as he contemplated what he would say when it was his turn. He couldn't just sit there. He needed to share something that went beyond the surface. With the heaviness still hanging around him, Mark drew in a breath. I think it's my turn, right? His voice caught slightly but steadied. I wish I could change how scared I am about the future. I constantly hold back my ideas, thinking I'm not enough. Sometimes, I look at you all and wonder how you seem so put together when really, I feel like I'm just pretending. His admission hung in the air, the honesty spilling like rain. Nimbus curled tighter in Mark's arms. Sensing the change, that he continued, I want to try being more transparent. I want to share more of my dreams. But it feels dangerous. What if I fail? Then, just as a crack of lightning brightened the room, Sarah leaned forward, her eyes earnest. But what if you don't? Mark's breath caught in his throat. The question lingered like the charged atmosphere of the storm outside. Would they truly be brave enough to leap together into the unknown? As the wind howled against the windows, Mark could feel the moisture of uncertainty swirling in the room, mixed with a growing determination. Would this moment mark the beginning of something transformative? Could they emerge from this storm truly unshackled, ready to embrace their vulnerabilities? With that thought hanging palpably in the air, they continued to share, diving deeper into realms of both fear and hope, each of them unearthing what had been buried for far too long. And as each word fell like raindrops, an undercurrent of anticipation trembled in their hearts, propelling them to explore what lay beyond their current struggles. Mark's heart raced as they gathered around Nimbus, the small kitten symbolic of their shared vulnerabilities laid bare. I think we're on the brink of something incredible, he said, his voice a mix of eagerness and trepidation. It feels like we've just started to scratch the surface of what we're really capable of. Together. Emily's eyes sparkled with a newfound determination. It's scary, but it's also exciting. When we face this storm together, we really can find our way through. The thunder rumbled again outside, but this time it felt different. Less ominous, more like a reminder of their shared strength. Each clap seemed to resonate with a promise, a chance to confront their fears as one cohesive unit. Let us do this, Jake agreed, his voice unwavering. I've thought about it. And what I like most is to feel like I'm moving towards something, not just treading water. I want to take real, tangible steps toward a life I want to build, not just one someone else wants for me. That sounds amazing, Jake, Sarah encouraged, her eyes wide with admiration. Each one of us deserves that space to grow and dream. Mark felt the warmth of companionship envelop him. And we'll be here to support you when you take those steps. Just like we've been here for each other tonight. Sarah, emboldened by the moment, nodded. I want to take responsibility for my dreams too. I've held back because of fear, but I want to honor my passion for helping others. Maybe I can start by volunteering at the community center again like you did, Mark. It helped me feel connected and purposeful. Absolutely, that's the spirit, he exclaimed, the thought filling him with hope. It's those acts of service that can keep us grounded. Emily raised her hand, excitement bubbling in her thoughts. I want to redefine what a safe space means for me, especially concerning friendships. I need to prioritize my own mental wellness. So, I need to commit to whittling away those negative thoughts surrounding my past relationship. It's time I take control. Mark could feel the room brightening, shadows falling away as they began building their dreams together in this intimate circle. Wow, that's giant. Jake beamed. And so necessary. Setting boundaries is crucial. As the storm outside intensified, they didn't flinch. Instead, they leaned in closer, their hands reaching for each other, a physical embodiment of their bond, fierce and protective. Together, we'll weather this, Mark said, pride swelling within him. Looking into each other's eyes, Mark felt an undeniable spark of unity light the way forward. Nimbus purred in contentment, sensing the harmony in the air. Mark gazed at the little creature, comforted by the warmth pooling within their hearts. We can share our burdens and our joys too. Jake leaned forward, a light-hearted grin on his face. Plus, we have Nimbus to remind us of the good amidst the chaos. Laughter erupted, sweet and unburdened, breaking through layers of tension still lingering in the corners. Mark could feel their hearts elevating, buoyed by purpose and friendship. The fear from earlier faded, replaced with an electric energy. Their laughter filled the room, a shred of warmth against the tumult outside. It was a reminder that even amidst raging storms both outside and within, all they truly needed was each other. Suddenly, a fierce gust of wind slammed against the sides of the house, a clash of chaotic energy meeting their newfound resolve. "Let us make a pact," Mark said, his eyes shifting to each friend. "Let us promise to check in with one another. We can't afford to lose sight of what we've just uncovered. Let us keep each other accountable as we venture through the storms life brings." They all nodded, a bond forming stronger than any tempest outside. One by one, they expressed their pledges. Their commitments were fueled by hope, ignited by the storms they had faced together. When the final gust subsided, a stillness wrapped around them like a warm blanket. They realized that perhaps the rain was a blessing in disguise, a cleansing of hidden fears, an opening for new beginnings. As they settled around Nimbus once more, their laughter morphed into something deeper, something resolute and whole. Their eyes gleamed brighter than before. The journey ahead was still unmarked, but they knew one thing for certain: they wouldn't have to face it alone. In that moment, hope surged through Mark. With friends by their side, they would rewrite their stories beyond anyone's expectations. All it took was embracing vulnerability, letting love in, and taking that next step together. And just like that, the storm outside lessened, the wind calming, reflecting the peace finally captured in their hearts. As they shared in the comfortable silence, a realization washed over Mark. Life could be a storm, yes, filled with uncertainty and turmoil. But with compassion, they could transform any tempest into a path toward healing and connection. This is the moment you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next incredible stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. We want to hear from you. And whatever you do, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. They need to experience this journey too.